Have you ever wished for a user manual for life? A guide to making better decisions, figuring out your place in the world. Well, today that's exactly what we're going to build. We're going to construct a personal blueprint for a more intentional, a more thoughtful life. And we're using the wisdom of history's greatest thinkers as our building blocks. So let's get into it.
All right, here's the game plan. We're going to build this blueprint from the ground up, starting with the absolute core component, you, the self. From there, we'll build outward, looking at your actions, your role in society, the invisible systems that shape everything, and then, finally, we get to the big one, the question of meaning. It's a journey from the inside out.
So, let's dive into part 1. Who am I? Look, any big project needs a rock-solid foundation, right? And for the project of your life, that foundation is, and always will be, self-knowledge.
This is the question, the very first one you have to tackle. And it seems so simple, doesn't it? But finding an answer you can be absolutely sure of, that's way harder than you'd think. I mean, how can you be certain of anything? Your senses can fool you, your memories might be fuzzy or just plain wrong. So where do you even begin to build a foundation when the ground itself feels like it's shifting beneath your feet?
This is where the philosopher René Descartes came in with a pretty radical approach. He decided, you know what? Let's just tear it all down. He started asking himself things like, how do I know for sure that I'm not dreaming right this second? How do I really know these hands are mine? He made this amazing point that the only people who are completely certain about what they see and feel are, as he put it, madmen. So to find real, unshakable truth, he knew he had to start by doubting absolutely everything.
And in the middle of this hurricane of doubt, he found it. One single, solid piece of ground. He realized he could doubt his body, his senses, the entire world, but the one thing he couldn't doubt was the fact that he was doubting. And to doubt, you have to think. And that was the big eureka moment. The act of thinking itself proved his own existence. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. This right here is the first unshakable block in our blueprint, the certainty of your own mind. You exist.
Okay, so you exist. That's our foundation. Check. But a foundation is, well, it's just the beginning, isn't it? Now we have to actually build something on it. And that brings us to part 2. Because knowing you're a thinking being is one thing, knowing how to act out there in the real world, that's a whole other ballgame.
And this leads us to a classic conflict, one that I think every single one of us feels. On one hand, you've got the ideal. You've got this clear moral compass, like the one from the Bible. Do what is right and good. Simple enough. But then, on the other hand, you've got the ultimate pragmatist, Machiavelli, who basically said, look, if you want to win or even just survive, you'd better know how to do the wrong thing when you have to. This isn't just an abstract problem for princes. It's a tension we deal with every day.
So here's the big takeaway for our blueprint. A truly thinking life isn't about just picking one of those paths and blindly following it. No way. Real wisdom, real self-improvement comes from understanding the entire spectrum. It's about knowing that pure idealism and, yeah, even ruthless pragmatism are both tools in the human toolkit. Your job is to learn how to navigate that huge, messy gray area in between, using your own judgment. Now, our actions don't happen in a bubble, right? We're constantly bumping up against other people, which leads us to the third big layer of our blueprint, and it's a huge question. How do, or maybe how should we, live together?
Well, John Locke gave us a pretty optimistic model. He called it the social contract. He imagined that we all start out in a state of nature with, quote, perfect freedom. But that can be chaotic. So to protect ourselves and our stuff, we willingly give up a little bit of that absolute freedom. We hand it over to the community, which then sets up common laws and acts like a neutral referee for everyone. It's a beautiful vision of society built on cooperation.
But then you get the perspective of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. And they saw something completely different. For them, society isn't some cooperative agreement, it's an arena of constant conflict. It's a struggle between classes. And even within the same class, they pointed out how competition is always trying to tear people apart. From this point of view, society isn't built on cooperation, it's built on struggle.
So what does this mean for our blueprint? It means that to build an effective life, you have to be able to see both sides of this coin. You need to understand the ideals of cooperation, the rules we all agree to, but you also have to recognize the reality of conflict and competition. It's kind of like playing a sport. You can't possibly play well if you don't understand the entire field, not just your own little patch of grass.
Okay, so we've looked at the social field. Now for part 4, let's go even deeper. Because beyond the people and the groups that we can actually see, our lives are being shaped by these massive, invisible forces, these abstract systems that are setting the rules of the game. So, what are these rules? Now, I know this table looks a little scary, but stick with me, because it shows these invisible forces in action. And it's fascinating. It's from the economist John Maynard Keynes. He's comparing two things here. First, purchasing power parity. That's just a fancy way of saying what a currency should be worth based on what it can buy you at home. Think of it as its real value. He compared that to the actual exchange rate, what people were actually paying for it on the international market. And just look at that gap in 1920, a 13-point difference. This is not just numbers on a page. This means that some huge, invisible economic system was making people's hard-earned money worth way less than it should have been, affecting every single thing they tried to buy or sell. It's a perfect example of a hidden rule with very, very real consequences.
Karl Marx was talking about something similar, but with the value of our work. He argued that how we value, say, a doctor's labor versus a construction worker's labor isn't some law of nature. He said it's decided by a social process that goes on behind the backs of the producers. In other words, the actual worth of your time and your effort is being decided by a system you probably don't even see and definitely don't control.
So, with all these invisible forces swirling around, how do we stay grounded? Well, Adam Smith gives us a brilliant anchor. He said the real price of anything isn't about the money. It's about the toil and trouble it takes to get it. Our labor, our human effort, is the ultimate currency. Now that is a powerful idea for self-improvement, isn't it? It forces you to ask a really important question. In a world run by all these abstract rules, how are you choosing to spend your most valuable, most fundamental currency, your time and your energy? And that question leads us directly to the final, and let's be honest, the most important part of our blueprint. After we've analyzed the self, our actions, society, these huge systems, we finally get to the very top of the mountain. Part 5. What is the goal?
What's the whole point? Why bother building this complicated blueprint? What is the ultimate objective of this whole thing? You know, the greatest minds in history have all wrestled with this and, well, they definitely did not all come up with the same answer.
Friedrich Nietzsche offers one possible answer: a life of heroic striving. The goal for him is to become what he called the Superman, or Overman, a person who is constantly overcoming their own limits, someone who wills more, who sees further, and who goes further than anyone before them. For Nietzsche, the purpose of life is this constant, glorious act of self-overcoming.
But then you have Voltaire, who gives us a totally different vision. At the end of his book, Indeed, after his characters have traveled the whole world, seen endless suffering, and debated all these grand philosophies, what's their final conclusion? It's something so simple, so humble, and so practical. Let us cultivate our garden. Meaning isn't found in some grand, heroic quest, but in taking care of your own small corner of the world.
And Nietzsche actually gives us another, maybe even more profound idea: amor fati, the love of your fate. With this idea, the goal isn't to change the world or even to overcome yourself. The goal is to radically accept your life exactly as it is, with all the good, all the bad, all the joy, and all the tragedy. To not just put up with what's necessary, but to actually love it. That, he said, is the formula for true greatness.
And this is maybe the most important part of the entire blueprint. There is no single correct answer at the back of the book. The whole point of this journey, of understanding yourself, your actions, society, all of it, is to get you to this one moment. The moment where you can make a conscious choice about what your life is for. Are you going to be the hero? Are you going to cultivate your garden? Or are you going to love your fate? A thinking life doesn't give you the answer. It gives you the power to choose one for yourself.
So, we've laid out the framework. We've looked at the foundation, the materials, the outside forces, the potential designs for the finished structure, which leaves us with just one last crucial question.
You are. We've laid out the plans, but a blueprint is just ink on paper. It's completely useless until the architect decides to pick up the tools and start building. The life is yours. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.